All right, let's jump into it. So, modernizing industrial sales isn't just about new tools or processes, it's about evaluating how we teach, learn, and collaborate across the entire plastics value chain. I'm excited to discuss how we're transforming commercial excellence, empowering our teams, and shaping a more sustainable future for our customers and partners. Rachel Keshock, Director of Sales at Baerlocher USA. Welcome. I saw that you wrote this on my LinkedIn when we booked this. Well, just we've never had a conversation before, so super excited. And thank you, and very nice to meet you. And really want to focus on those three key pillars for our conversation: commercial excellence, empowering teams, and shaping a more sustainable future. So, can we start with what do you actually mean by transforming commercial excellence?
Yeah. Well, Mike, first off, thank you so much for having me on here. Really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to meet you and to get to speak with you today. So, for transforming excellence, what I mean is it's not about change for the sake of change. It's about modernizing basically how we operate. So, how do we elevate our commercial rigor? How do we strengthen our cross functional alignment? And how are we continuously improving so that we can serve our customers better? So, how do we continually strive to be better? It's not about perfection, but it's really about that excellence, which is a mindset. It's a mindset that you have, and how do we create that within our organizations?
I love that. So I think you work for a pretty big organization. So I would imagine that there's like um, guidelines or barriers that you have to stay within to make sure that we are within the SOPs of what we're allowed to do in terms of delivering commercial excellence, right? So, how does a large company all make sure that um, you are also able everyone's kind of doing it in a sort of like a uniform, manner. What does that look like?
It's a great question. Well, first, I'd say it always starts with just the mindset within the organization, making sure that key leaders, key stakeholders are driving that mindset of that excellence throughout the organization, and that they are the ones embodying and living it and being able to do that with their direct peers or direct reports, and that they're embodying that between the organization. As far as ensuring that it's going across the organization, is with a larger organization, it's really driving, it's driving performance, it's driving accountability, and it's having things in place to make sure that you can hold your teams accountable, hold your peers accountable, and really drive towards that excellence and strive towards that for your customers and for your organization.
What does that look like today in terms of has customer expectations risen? So we're being challenged more on that excellence front, and like the expectations are higher, or how would you compare, let's say, today versus like 10 years ago?
Customers' expectations have risen. They have higher standards, they have higher requirements. A lot of people are wearing a lot of different hats nowadays. So they're being held to specific KPIs and standards within their companies that they need to meet and exceed, to show that they can perform. So you have to, from a sales side, elevate your game even more to make sure that you're being able to appeal to your customers and help them in multiple different areas. So, how do you help them grow their top line? How do you help them reduce costs? And then, how do you also build that relationship with them and have that trust within the relationship with them through, transforming excellence and looking at other key ways of doing that?
Yeah. So when I hear you speak, I think of like also experience. Like when what do I experience when it comes to like or my business partners or vendors in terms of what it's like to deal with them. So many times it's not necessarily, let's say, like the cheapest partner or vendor to partner with. It's the one that maybe will save me the most time. They're a pleasure to work with. I'm not like continuing to chase them, making sure like projects are getting done. There's no loose ends. I know if I'm like, working with that specific person, part of that company, they're delivering that excellence. I'm more likely to retain them as a partner.
Yes.
Would you agree? It's also like customer experience that you're delivering that aligns?
It is 100% customer experience. It's really understanding why do they buy, like what motivates them. And it's really appealing to that experience and appealing to them and helping them. So we want our customers. I've always in my sales career, no matter what company I've been with, is I want my customers to understand I'm a true partner. Or the company is a true partner. We're there to help them build a sustainable company. And we all want to be around for a long time. And especially with the economic conditions that have occurred over the last 6 years, which have been tough on everyone, this is the time that we've all have to support each other and really partner together. So it's really that experience with them.
Is there any specific examples that you've seen either on your own team or outside where maybe a bit more detail of an example of this?
Yeah. So there's a few, but to just go through one, um, for instance, it would be, say a customer manufacturing facility, they have an issue with processing and their processing, they need to improve their costs, their time. We've gone into facilities with like our technical team engineers and operations and have been able to look at can we help them streamline their processes through operationally to help them reduce cost by increasing their efficiencies.
Hmm.
And we're able to partner with them because we understand that that's one of the areas that is a heavy focus within their company. And that's something that their maybe executive leadership is honing in on and really putting a microscope on and been able to help them improve. And we've done that with other companies I've been at, multiple different areas. And that's been a heavy area where we focus of trying to understand how can we solve their problems and help them achieve those.
Thanks for sharing that. The next key pillar was empowering teams.
So I would say the biggest thing within my sales career is how do we empower people to become, strategic thinkers on their own? How do we build the next generation of leaders? How do we shape that? And how do we build a better world? So how do we do that is by empowering people. So we got to put the right people in the right seats, but we also have to give them the right tools, the right training, the right understanding of what are their responsibilities so they understand what they're responsible for, what they're accountable for. But you need to also let them turn them loose. You need to invest in your people. You need to let them understand that they can make mistakes. Mistakes happen. Most of the mistakes in sales isn't gonna we're not surgeons. We're not operating on anybody. Most mistakes are fixable. And that's how we build that next generation to be able to have those critical thinking skills, to be able to understand how to make decisions on their own and empower them to now lead and develop others.
So, can you dig a little bit deeper with me on the empowerment part? Because a lot of times working in these bigger corporations, I see a lot of folks, they feel like they aren't able to, I guess, push the needle where they feel like they could. Where I often then speak with other teams where they are, and it seems like those are the ones, to your point, that thrive.
Well, I would say part of it depends on the leadership that you have within the company and what they're trying to build within the company. So that's the first thing of you can't go into an organization if that's not what they're looking at doing is
Hmm.
empowering their people. So I've been blessed with being around organizations where that has been um, a key thing that they've embodied within their culture and within their values. Um, so I think that's where it first starts is really what is the executive team? What is that company trying to build? Second, it's then it's what do you want to build within that? And it's always been for me as being with those organizations that want to empower, want to build great leaders. And sometimes it can be tough because depending on the organization, they may be a little bit more strict at letting others make decisions, and there might be hierarchy of how decisions need to be made. But you can build processes, systems, and tools around it to be able to allow your team to make decisions For example, you can build like product management, pricing structures or tools where they have different bands where they can make approvals in different areas. So they have a tool that where they can be more independent. And then you can also do that same thing with negotiations, like commercial agreements, where you build tools where they have like a Q&A that they can refer back to. And you build those things to be able to try to empower them and allow them to understand and develop as leaders and critically think on their own.
How have you seen the tariffs sort of impact the industry?
Pretty significant impact.
Eh,
So,
Pretty broad question, but in terms
yeah.
of like the team dynamic.
The team dynamic, I would say, um, very blessed with coworkers, peers that I'm around that have done a lot of work to be able to mitigate as much impact from the tariffs that they could. So, team dynamic has been very good within our organization. It has taken a hit on the industries that we do serve just because it has caused people to be a little bit more frugal where they're looking, switching suppliers. It's caused competition to get even a little bit more competitive, drive some costs down in areas just due to tariffs and rising costs in other areas.
Hmm.
So it's been a tough bout that we've all gone through, but we're all in the same boat. It's not just one company, it's the world.
Sure. Yeah. So going back to that commercial excellence, if you are a premium brand and you've been delivering this commercial excellence, and um, how do we now compete against, let's say, the real value brands that are just selling on price, when it looks like a lot of companies are looking for quote unquote cheaper ways, but maybe in the future, they'll be paying for it in other ways, if that makes sense. But on the P&L in the beginning, it looks cheaper, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense, Mike. Part of that is understanding we got to understand why they buy. So, if and what is motivating the company, like what are their goals for that year? Where you strive to sell on value, you strive to be more than just me too,
Hmm.
and just more than just a cost player. we you've got to look and say, okay, there's different economic factors that we can't control, and there's other areas we can't control, but what we can understand is why do our customers buy, what are their goals for that year, and then how do we appeal to those. And we serve areas that are, and this is every company I've been with, that have been specialty but also had commodity areas. So you pivot and you sell differently depending on what those areas are and how they are, and you have a different go-to-market strategy for each of those areas. So you have to handle things very differently, and you also have to transform as the environment, as everything around you shifts. You've got to be agile and you've got to be able to shift with those markets.
So I'm not a tariff expert, but are things now more transparent and calm that across the board there are certain tariffs, or there's a lot of still unknowns?
There are still some unknowns, but
Okay.
things are calmer now than they were. The beginning of the year, the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, were a lot of uncertainty. I'd say right now the biggest thing where there's a lot of uncertainty is the economy going to actually start to pick up?
Hmm.
Are we going to see demand start to get better? Are we going to see those shifts going on in 2026? And there's a lot of uncertainty around that. There's a lot of, I'd say, reluctance. And those are probably some of the bigger factors, not just tariffs this year, but if you think about it, interest rates were extremely high at the beginning of the year. That impacts a lot of different areas of businesses.
Um, I think we just printed a 4.6 unemployment rate in the United States. I think just today because the BLS was on government shutdown. So this was the latest print. I think we're seeing a lot of companies not rehire, right? So if someone quits or leaves, goes to a competitor, just they're just basically saying, "Hey, do we need to really have this position? Can someone else on the team or a few people take up the slack, if you will?" We also see a lot of companies, let's say, top grading their talent, so really doing more with less, reducing their teams, but just hiring like some A players. So we're seeing the softness continue just from our side, the hiring side, which is just indicative of the softness, I guess, in the overall market. So I think we're seeing the same thing um, that you're saying. I think that that's the overall shift, though, in terms of like empowering our teams and commercial excellence across the board. How do we do more with less to preserve margins? Is what we're seeing across a lot of manufacturers.
And that's what we're seeing across like our company and also our customers, our suppliers. We're seeing that globally. There's a lot of different shifts occurring, and we're that's in alignment, very much in alignment. And we've seen that. I've seen that with various different companies over the last 6 years, how things have been shifting with the different economic changes.
So you also mentioned in your post that you're especially excited for younger generations to get excited for our industry um, and help them shape what's next and all the opportunity. So, how do we get the younger generation excited?
That's probably one of the hardest questions because with AI and tech and everything that's going on, that's one of the areas that the younger generations really do want to go into. But
Hmm.
it's really, spending more time with the younger generation, spending more time at college campuses, high schools, investing in their futures, partnering with schools to try to get them to understand more about the plastics industry, the rubber industry, the different various industries across the board that we serve, packaging, so that we can support and bring the younger generation and make them enthusiastic about leading the future and leading it to a path where they have the opportunities with the technology and everything that's evolving um, to shape the world in a way that I think a lot of us won't ever be able to do just in our timelines. So it's exciting, and we've got to be able to embody that and be able to tell them and tell that story out there.
That's
And how
awesome.
do we do that as a group and as an industry together?
Thanks for sharing that and writing that. And then the last and third final pillar that you mentioned was shaping a more sustainable future for our customers and partners. What does that look like to you?
Growth balances performance today with responsibility for tomorrow. So that means thoughtful innovation, long term partnerships, decisions rooted in integrity. So, safety, sustainability across the value chain. So, how do we bring all of that and drive that sustainable value through it? So, it's not just about sustainability, there's more. And I think that's the biggest thing, too, is we've got to act with integrity and we really need to embody that within our companies and within ourselves, too. And that's going to shape the tomorrow and the future. And that's a lot of the younger generation is looking for that too. They're looking for companies that are investing in those areas and really looking at taking things to the next level through sustainability, safety, those types of area ways.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Gen Z really values the sustainability of companies more than any other generation as a whole. So it's really important in terms of attracting and retaining top talent. Rachel, I want to thank you for joining me today. If anyone maybe is interested in joining your team, if you have an opening, or just meeting you in general, what's the best way to reach out to you directly?
Best way would be LinkedIn if you want to reach out to me via LinkedIn, but you can also, I'm happy to share my email address with the group so that they can reach out to me via email. It's Keshock.Rachel@Baerlocher.com. That's my company email. And then I'm also there. I'm happy to share my private email, my personal email. If
That's
there's
helpful.
anybody out there
Yeah.
looking for maybe just professional help, personal development, anybody mentorship, I'm happy to help in any way I can within the industry.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Rachel, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you too, Mike. Happy holidays.
You as well. Bye bye.
Bye.